African observer Kayode Ogundimisi joins us now to discuss issues relating to the election, which is in 2 weeks' time. Many thanks for joining us, Mr. Ogundimisi. What do you make of the fact that over 600 primary election cases were in court in terms of violence and preparations for this election?
Thank you. It speaks volumes to the level of our democracy. We wait until election time before we start strengthening our democratic process. People just think democracy is all about voting on election day, but there's a part we've left out, which is building democratic principles within political parties. Membership recruitment, access to be able to contest elective positions within political parties do not seem to reflect the democratic ideals that is practiced all over the world. So we need to improve on that. In situations where political party members cannot freely choose those who represent them in general election, you would have conflicts across political parties. And that speaks volume to the kind of litigations you're seeing across all the political parties. We need to build that process. INEC needs to put more effort in trying to dialogue with political parties at least 3 years before election. And within the political parties, they need to open up the political space so that young Nigerians will be able to come into those parties. They will be less dependent on political godfathers. If we take that away, if we open the political space, if we also try as much as possible to encourage political leaders to know that, look, elective positions is not a warfare. It is offering your service for the people, then we would have less combativeness in our electoral process. So
you're saying the buck stops at INEC's table in terms of disabusing the minds of people to say this election is not do or die affair. It's that the prerogative of INEC.
It is a combination of INEC and playing its role before election period, and also political parties taking responsibilities. It's disappointing that when we have a 4-year election, we wait until election year before we start talking about voters' education, before we start ramping up PVC collection. I think we need a cooperation between the INEC as the regulatory bodies and the body organizing election and political parties. And also citizens themselves need to take responsibility. More people need to join political parties, not stay by the sidelines. In the absence of good people going into political parties, you still have the same sets of people across these political parties deciding your future. So people should take keener interest in political parties. Political parties are not private properties. They are platforms for elective positions.
All right. There are multi-prongs allegations in terms of violence coming for the forthcoming election. One on the hand of the political parties fermenting trouble, so elections won't take place in that particular place. Another angle to it, that's the allegation, is that security forces are already trained to be biased, to foment trouble, and to allow some people to have a field day. And at the end of the day, INEC will come in with a big stick, wielding Section 26 of the Electoral Act to say elections cannot hold in such places. What's your take on all these allegations?
Well, so far, I think there's been a lot of scaremongering in the political space in this general election. There's been less violence. By this time, 2015, in Rivers State, for example, we had witnessed a lot of bloodshed across the country. So far, so good. In certain parts of the country, people are not even bothered. They're just saying, okay, there's going to be an election in 14 days. They're going about their normal business. I think we've had a rapid improvement in terms of pre-election violence. Nigerians themselves are aware of the fact that they cannot continue to kill themselves for politicians. But where we need to actually focus on is election day violence and post-election violence. That is where we need to help our security forces, that they are not enemies, they are there to protect us, and they need to play a very unbiased role during the election in itself. So I don't believe that there's been massive violence across the country when it comes to election. In this particular election, I think there are signs that it's going to be peaceful and that violence is going to be quite minimal. But that would entail everyone, all stakeholders, making sure that they conduct themselves in a very peaceful way and they respect all the rules of the game. and that this is going to be an election where a Nigerian will emerge the winner across the different positions. Whoever is going to emerge the winner is not going to come from Siberia or from Liberia. They are Nigerians, and that once we acknowledge the fact that it's Nigerians are going to be winning the election or losing the election, we'll make a big progress.
And many people are still calling for the recommendations of the Waste Commission. You know what I'm talking about in terms of having a special court or a special tribunal that would try election violence cases. There have been violence in the past. Many elections have been held. Many people that were nabbed. We don't know if they were prosecuted or not. What's happening to those people? And the call is, if you have such tribunals that can try such cases speedily, then it will be a deterrent.
I think our judiciary generally needs to be, we need a lot of things to be done in our judiciary. Our judiciary as it is today, just like most segment of our society, serves the interests of the powerful above the interest of the common man. No matter the number of reforms we try to white paper, if we don't reform the judiciary, if we don't stamp out the corruption within the system, we'll just be going around in circles. I think first and foremost, there is a need for a radical restructuring of our judicial process. When you say speedily, what is the point of being able to judiciously resolve electoral matters, and the common man cannot get justice on the street speedily? So we can't isolate the effectiveness of the judiciary to just the election process. It's got to cut across board. People should be able to seek justice and have a resolution of crisis within communities. When you isolate resolving electoral process from the general quagmire that we have in our judiciary, where most judges are said to be corrupt, where we have, for example, the Chief Justice of Nigeria saying he does not, forgot to obey the laws of the land, then we have a big issue. So beyond that reform, beyond looking at the wise recommendation, there's the need to look at the judiciary holistically and other segments.
We have to leave it there. We have to leave it there. That's Kayode Ogundimisi there on TVC News at this time. We'll go on a